Sound version of an article that is found written on Medium and the sites Generation Miss Knowing Year-Round Shorts and Autistic Group's Fairness Watch. Article for Generational Fairness in the Year-Round Shorts Explosion. During this winter 2023-4, I have seen online a culture shift outside public attention, made no fuss of, that has been outside dreaming of ever seeing. Quite a number of primary schools' uniform lists in England, suddenly altogether, are explicitly stating that some children, or some are specifically their children, prefer to wear shorts all year round. Not just listing the uniform in a way that allows it, but taking the hospitable trouble to actually welcome it as a really made choice, accepted as okay. Discussion sites topics about shorts have become full of stories of big quantities of kids liking to do that. Cascades of posts, one after another, or posts saying it's lots of the poster's kids' schoolmates, or it's whole groups of friends doing it together. There has never before been this mass of popularity and choosing of it. There have always been posts referring to one-off kids here and there. It has been apparent online for several years, particularly from North America, that the practice had increased popularity at all ages. But parents writing in articles that their kids do it were usually expressing frustration at their child being cold and having to learn not to fight it. Not the same as this new full acceptance of it. Never seen such a thing said in a professional article before. Until one on writing uniform policies I found by Olivia Dickinson on the site Optimus Education 2022. She is a consultant on child gender equality for schools and children's TV, a diversity and inclusion executive of the Children's Media Foundation. She objects rightly to a gendered high school uniform not catering for a boy who presently wears shorts all year round. Casually mentioned as a choice that happens, no need to say why it's okay. My action here is a solidarity action towards that. So you see the culture shift, popularly enough that some schools have been induced to decently recognize it. It accompanies its adult popularity, widely acknowledged online to have grown in recent years too. Firstly, what action follows? This is a recognition in professional practice of a well-being need for kids. So to cite so as proving a duty by all schools to provide for it, including high schools to stop banning shorts. To use this in all sensory needs challenges to uniforms and in support of next summer's round of boy skirt protests. It establishes as already professionally acknowledged a need for all schools to allow all trouser lengths always. For as some schools acknowledge the need, all are shown to have the need. What a slow, hard-won milestone it is to get choice acknowledged a need instead of the old line that uniform decides it for you. Year-round shorts have previously been present in a shockingly different way by uniforms, mostly primary, that use them as an age stigmatizer, which persists in existing in some regions after a half-century of gradual reduction by victories against them. That these uniforms, cruel and known to appeal to pedos, can still exist and not get banned all through an era so hot on child protection, indicts that child protection has remained a politicized, logically inconsistent farce. Now, the new acknowledgement of need for kids' choices, though of the same costume, is an opportunity to lay claim to banning those uniforms. Any choice acknowledged needed for kids creates a child protection duty to know, prevent, and guard against all ways the choice can be thwarted. It makes it cruelty to be prevented from making the choice. This ties in to the identity politics angle too, that sensory issue clothes choices are minority identities with a solid biological reality and entitled to the same protections against driving out of existence as the LGBT or ethnic national minorities. From 2008 onwards, the likes of Mumsnet show social services in some places had added shorts in winter to their list of causes for concern to mark against parents. Parents, since then, have posted on their preparedness to convince social services that the child whose own wishes they are allowing is not feeling cold. I've seen 2 stories where schools treated parents as bad for allowing shorts in winter, one teacher even calling it child abuse to the parent. These social services used an NSPCC paper on neglect called Graded Care Profile 2. An NSPCC has egg on its face for it now and needs to admit overturned its reference to shorts and sandals in winter as a neglect sign. This going after the easier tick box parents was without any similar action against school uniforms actually requiring them. Thus, an authoritarian horror chaos randomly over each child's head, where exactly the same thing at the same time could be in one place a social services cause for concern, and in another place, school uniform, as was noticed on Mumsnet at the time. Instead of either social services or schools having to cater for sensory issues or gender equality. Now, all dealing with them can put them ethically on the spot to start abiding by the kids' well-being choices. And if that holds towards their own practices and each other, it holds also for how they treat schools. They will now break this choices ethic if they don't treat all schools as subject to it, and if they continue to class as a school's and governor's own power of decision to have uniform features breaking the choices ethic. They can be told this ties them at last. You can tell them if dealing with them. To treat as abuse and neglect, not as school's power of decision. The shorts uniforms. Councils can't take part in inflicting something that has become a proven abuse, and imposing one trouser length now has. Hence, it does not work for any council now to try to avoid this by citing that uniforms are each school's own power. Councils keep schools open and treated as fit or decide to close them. They budget them, place kids in them, enforce their attendance, handle complaints, make additional needs decisions, organize transport. These all involve a council in any abuse done by a school policy, because it takes part in administering kids' subjection to it in all those ways. The web, especially Reddit and Mumsnet, has made available far more graphic descriptions of wearing the shorts uniforms than ever used to be in a bland one-line mention of them in some parents' advice books. They shake to the core the concept of school which let them happen. You have never heard their like for starkness, that no institution who would do this to kids can possibly exist for their benefit and education at all. Defenders of school answer how they did. Ours don't even let the boys wear trousers. They have to wear shorts all year round. Poor DS has very cold knees in winter. In middle school UK for the first 2 years, so aged 10 to 12, boys had to wear short shorts as part of our uniform, even in dead of winter. Walking to school in a -0 blizzard wearing tiny shorts is not fun. Back in the early 80s and went to a school in Carlisle, all the boys had to wear grey shorts, even in winter. My mother, who thought that was very unfair, constantly tried to find loopholes, including once sending me to school in leg warmers when it was a particularly cold day. Shorts were utterly miserable in school in the winter. One of the primary schools I was at had us wear shorts all year round. Shorts in the snow was horrific. You would literally be playing in the snow in midwinter wearing effing shorts. That would be called child abuse now. I know of a school where boys have to wear shorts all year. Even when we had the horrible winter and all that snow, boys still had to go to school wearing shorts. At my son's school, they aren't allowed to wear trousers until year 5. Shorts all winter, brr. I always felt seen off because girls were allowed thick tights and we had our shorts in the cold winters. My poor son has to wear shorts all year round. No wonder he keeps getting colds. The first C in NSPCC stands for cruelty. Yet it has not seen as its role to challenge decisions made by agencies or other public institutions. With this left to school governors or heads with no children's services angrily questioning how cold they and the teachers rationally know the kids are, that has left the kids described in a catch-22 for inaction, where it was not defined as an abuse if not already acted on, and not acted on if not already defined as an abuse. that a specific well-being ethic recognized in other practice now makes contestable. Yet, yes, nicely using the well-being ethic of kids who actually like doing this to force an overdue abuse definition onto forcing any kids to do it. It is troubling that the very clear pattern of neglect described in these accounts was apparently allowed to persist for generations at schools without child protection services intervening, despite fitting reasonable definitions of neglect that they are mandated to address. Claude Instant Bot. I wonder if either the NSPCC and social services or the schools doing it are at all aware of how chaotically different are the perceptions of their existence by folks in different places. Ever since the old boys' breeches era ended in the 60s, their occurrence must be very erratic to local trends. And just as I could grow up in South Wales from the 70s with no idea they existed, even now when there is the web you can see posts not knowing so. There is never news media attention on their prevalence, which itself is a journalistic failure for the victims. Our school insists on shorts for boys and skirts for girls, no trousers at all. I think it's astonishing in 2013. Only one report by New Zealand's One News in 2022 broke that pattern. All these conflicting posts show how we have been left all in our own local bubbles, like in a sci-fi matrix, all to think our very different local experience is typical for a half century. I've never heard of a school not allowing trousers before. Didn't think they still existed. I am horrified to discover this cruel and poncy tradition still exists. It's not that usual nowadays. Lots of boys' schools still have this. It's a real issue in winter. I've no idea of the legal stance if they can enforce. My DS's school, the boys wear shorts all year round, come rain or snow, no trousers allowed. It's fairly common in private schools. It is fairly general for boys to wear short trousers with long socks as part of their school uniform up to a certain age. They certainly do and always have around my way. Around here anyway, at most schools, trousers only seem to be an option for the senior years of secondary school. What sort of system allows a practice to be widespread, hence need justifying, but leave large areas of folks not knowing it exists? Then work dress codes for adults, the I. Daniel Blake welfare regime, and military mortality take brutally no account at all of how right or unfairly wrong for you the chaotic potluck of your school clothes was. Hence your life's total balance of fairness. In the new recognition of kids' own choices, what sort of system leaves it just slipped quietly into uniform lists with no media announcing of it, and leaves it still possible for kids who have and like this personal identity to get robbed of it in several cruel ways? Social services interference as mentioned, parental forbidding, contrary religious upbringing, or bullying out of it. The choice ethic establishes as abuse victims all kids with a year-rounder preference who any of those unbearable, very real wrongs happen to. Every kid prevented from year-round for any of these reasons has their character and identity tarred unjustly, made vulnerable to be seen as a kid who chose not to do it, which is a terrible wound. To have a year-rounder preference is hence an identity, and entitled to be another strand of identity politics. All sensory issues with clothes are. Right perception of a wronged childhood matters for year-rounders the same as it matters for trans kids. Where is getting protected the right of every robbed year-rounder child, whether now adult or a present child, to be perceived as still the same as all these kids choosing to be year-rounders at school? still to be perceived as equally of that same identity. That and the right for its due ability to be common knowledge are the two safeguarding corners I have to fight for this group of wounded survivors. I know from experience, as an adult year-rounder for over 30 years, that we seem to get our identities accepted from any amount of doing it, as it wows folks. This looks to be easier for us than trans folks, and that once we're known as year-rounders, we pass as lifelong. Okay, but will it always be so? Would it survive honest answering about a robbed childhood? Folks in the autistic scene probably think I have been the lifelong year-rounder that every fibre of my identity screams out I should have been, and could be surprised to find I'm heartbroken over a childhood robbed of it. Like every robbed child, I deeply don't want to be one and would give almost anything not to be one. And like every robbed child, it's always there. A bereavement for part of yourself, and not to allow it unfairly to change that you still count as one of these kids. I was robbed not even by any human agency, but by conditions, a local climate. The media has never pushed any awareness this can happen. Just as Miriam Stoppard wrote of a Thames Valley Qatar, her Daily Mirror column, November 11th, 2002, my family were aware of a South Wales Qatar. Damp air climates by narrow waterways, causing symptoms like a persistent cold. Before the web, before posties were allowed shorts, and if thanks to this climate you never saw any other kids settle on being a year-rounder, you had no information on its doability to know it would not mean catching cold, harm your health. Though that info is now findable on the web, a kid's web access can be affected by poverty or over-supervision or IT-challenged parents, so this tragedy can still happen. Hence, universal hearing of info on this is as reasonable as on LGBT. I have the autistic sensory issue for shorts, and it recognised as a need as a worker, starting in the employment support system, as was in 2009, and published in Bittersweet on the Autism Spectrum 2017. So you see that the school cruelty experiences quoted earlier would not have been cruel for me and would have suited me. The cruelty for me is that I chanced not to get them. Climate must be why the shorts uniforms were never much a thing in South Wales. I could not even ask to go to a school with one because my wildest dreams never imagined they existed. Think how it messes with your head to gradually discover such a thing only in adulthood, when in other places there were kids like me who got lucky. What sense does it make that most kids who got those uniforms won't spend remotely as much of their lives in year-round shorts as I now have as an adult, after wrong school uniform for me did not point me that way? My childhood turns out to be all a false matrix. The broadcast media never focused on those uniforms when it discussed uniforms, so neither showed me they exist, nor told their sufferers that South Wales was different. In all innocence in South Wales's bubble, but never exploded by close touch with a family in Dorset, my mother thought all questions of shorts in winter had ended with the mid-century boys' breeches era, and she rationalised that era in memory such that the breeches and socks practically met, and with turn-ups. This was sometimes true, but not always. So after only narrowly missing the breeches era, I got only the common sense perception of shorts as seasonal, and knew no difference. But that includes, particularly painfully narrowly, because my grandma persuaded us that my hatred of football, team sports, made joining Cubs unsuitable for me. Living in a city without community events to see Cubs at, we did not know they had a shorts uniform then. My family were too eager for confirmation bias that I was an academic rather than outdoorsy kid to still pursue the Cub inquiry adequately, but nobody, including my classmate who had joined them, ever said the football warning was wrong, and I have seen it feature in some failed memories of Cubs online. The new school practice ethically entitles Scouts all to legwear choice in their uniforms too. In writing to tell the Scout Association that, I got back also that no kid now ever has to take part in a sport unwillingly. That autistic-friendly result looks to have been the case for at least a generation, but like the new school practice, arrived at quietly without any announcement, when it matters to all kids that it continue, so it needed and needs to be known. From age 8, I had a disastrous schooling, as a wishful mislabeling as gifted for my early autistic reading led to a pressure abuse breakdown at 14, and at least I became a key cause of the discrediting and eventual closure of the private school Balfour House scholarship boy that did it. Radically advanced streaming, fearsomely shouty, badly remembered, a poorly resourced, short-lived, fly-by-night school with small curriculum and no weekly extracurricular life, selling right-wing simple certainties and failing, it got consistently bad results and left nothing good from it ever existed. Its business-like gloom included that it did not allow shorts above the first primary year after infants class, nor did they let us go home in PE kit. There was no equality law for boys' skirt protests then, so I have to read about all the popularity of year-round by choice now, or the shorts uniforms to age 12 or 13, knowing I got Balfour's Long's misery from age 8. And this, at age 10, I stayed in shorts at home all October. It was wonderful. And let me dare to hope to continue its untroubledness in November. But the South Wales catarrh struck inevitably as the season turned and taught me grimly clearly that year-round was an impossible dream that could not exist. Snuffed out then for the rest of my childhood. This tragedy could happen even to a kid in the city where the Prime Minister was an MP for. James Callaghan. He probably never realised anything different in Cardiff's experience. During his government, the many thousands of families, unknown to me, suffering shorts uniforms that would have woken me up, had unknown to them that a kid in the Prime Minister's city could be trapped in such an opposite perception and thwarted from knowing that year-round was okay to do. Living in a matrix again. At age 14 in adolescent unit, a girl briefly experimented with bare legs in early winter and actually guessed right about me and suggested shorts. This unit, a health service institution, did not tell us that year-round was safe health-wise, so that moment was lost too. And for that girl too. Were they misled by the climate too? Or did they withhold the truth because they favoured conformity? Consider a pre-waking, young adult moment when a yucky man in a park so discomforted my unresolved feelings that for a few months I reacted against shorts, trying to suppress them. Finally, contemplate the catch-22 that when I woke up to my identity and started doing year-round, my respiratory health actually improved and felt less catarrhal. After all that sorrow happened to me, and how many kids? Think how anguishing it is to read all this happiness for a wave of big numbers of kids now. About a third of the boys at my child's primary school wear shorts all year round. You have just one of these kids. It's half the boys in our school. I teach fourth, can confirm that most of the boys refuse to wear anything other than shorts. My 9-year-old and all his friends wear shorts all year round every year. I've gave up trying to make him wear trousers as he's happy and wants to wear shorts. Loads of the kids at my boys' school stay in shorts all year round. A few still just wear short sleeves and no jumpers too. My DS is 10 and has similar issues with how things feel. He's always worn shorts all year round. Quite a few boys in his class do. DS and his friends and a lot of their peer group were wearing shorts in the -8 weather last year. They wouldn't wear trousers. My DS wore shorts almost every day during primary, even in snow. If he was particularly cold, he would wear knee-length socks. We are in the north and it is cold. My DS constantly wears shorts out of choice. He does have trousers but chooses not to wear them. We live in the north of Scotland. I get lots of looks. My DD and some of her friends wear shorts all year round. She wears them because she likes them better than trousers. Yeah, my sister was a teen standing in like 6 inches of snow, wearing short shorts, spaghetti-strap shirt and flip-flops. My 13-year-old DD lives in shorts, and she's definitely not chavvy, just comfortable as she sees it. She has one pair of trousers which she wears only under duress, and she has to wear a skirt to school, which is apparently a more acceptable option than the trousers. My older brother insisted on wearing shorts and sandals all year round. It could snow 3 feet and he would still trek around in shorts and sandals. Is he cold or do you just think he is? Mine wore shorts all year for most of primary and would have carried on at secondary if allowed. Do a little gentle probing to make sure it is actually neglect. My son wore shorts every day, even in snow. It was just his thing. He owned pants. I always wore shorts as a kid. There are pictures of me climbing on a glacier in shorts. He won't die from wearing shorts in the cold for a bit. Middle school boys, older elementary boys wear shorts in winter all the time. They've been doing this since I was in middle school. We got to stop thinking everything is neglect. There are plenty of kids who just find shorts more comfortable. He won't get cold. It's the whole reason he wants to wear shorts. I'm 48 and still wear shorts in the winter. Some people are just built different. So I'm built different and found shorts more comfortable, yet South Wales catarrh happens to me. And if I had died before well into young adulthood, my identity would never have been lived at all. This is a terrible, unfair mourning to have in my life and was not my fault. It is identity justice that might in some cases prevent suicides, that we each get still counted as one of these loads of kids. Me including 4 my real try to be one when I was 10. This is why there is an automatic duty to do sociology on the causes of year-round's new popularity. To understand the impact of prevention and being robbed of it, I will have an automatic right to be a research subject on it. Urgently to find out how many of these kids do it only because they know its safety from peers who do it. They are often described as groups of friends doing it. That will clearly show that nasal climate places in my generation, when you had no peers doing it, were different. Or they know from the web. So have the web and a peer's popularity breakthrough for doing it both made a decisive difference everywhere, and not only in the tragic nasal climate regions? Has climate change an influence? With many spring-like days in winter now that were not for my generation. They have built on my generation's struggles. The same as a century ago, it hurt the writer of Testament of Youth to see the post-Victorian liberalising of beachwear happen after her own childhood. Favourable descriptions of the shorts uniforms, of course, take nothing away from the bad descriptions' horror and don't counter them. But when many kids like to do this, some good opinions are bound to exist. Our DS is only allowed shorts at school, no trousers. He has never complained or had a problem with it, and I have pictures of him building an igloo in shorts. At weekends, he chooses to wear shorts too, and rarely wears trousers. Private school here, boys are in shorts and long socks all year. They love it, have never complained of being cold. At DS2's last school, the boys wore shorts all year round until year 5. It was next to the sea and the wind were fierce, but he never complained about being cold. They too are pain and trauma for me. When did I ever get to build an igloo, enjoy sea winds, or love this at private school? It overwhelms me with injustice to see post after post show how many schools still do this, while I got Balfour instead. These quotes don't support uniforms, they damn them, because they prove my longs-obsessed uniform at Balfour child abuse. They prove part of that. Anyone who ever suggests the obscenities that I or others with Rob's pasts should in any way ever accept them or do anything to feel better, instead of live proactive anger and fight back always. I am walking proof of the wrongness, unethicality, uncaringness, emotional abusiveness of all ideas ever proposed in psychology and religions for wronged and life-hurt people to be passive and live in acceptance, to let go or move on, or one-sidedly forgive and anti-bitterness propaganda. I am evidence it's wrong ever to advise those things to anyone hurt or harmed by all older practices towards these clothes choices. For I discovered my autism through following the anti-school cause and seeing autism's role in school issues. So if I had made any of those passive choices, I would be one of the missed adult undiagnosed, including never have heard of sensory issues. By supplying that fact, I help all these kids fights for their choice. The obvious quid pro quo is fair recognition of every robbed kid, present and past, as still one of you.